for episode 2. Hopefully episode 1 went well. We haven't aired it out yet, but hopefully it went well. But I have someone different with me today, and you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Paige. I'm her sister. I'm in college. I really love the paranormal. We really grew up with that stuff. It's just an obsession I love, so yeah. I'm so excited for this.
And it's going to be really fun. We're going to have a good time. We've always been into spooky stuff. Like, just growing up, we would put on scary shows at Mom and Dad's house. Like, we still do that. So, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Bonding time.
Yes.
Mom and Dad would be so proud. So, for the first story that I have today, this was a question that was posed on the subreddit Ask Reddit, and it's titled, "What's the most paranormal story you know?" And these are comments, a couple comments that I found within these that I found really interesting.
Okay, all right.
So the actual comments don't have a title, but I think you'll enjoy them.
All right.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
Let's go. My childhood home didn't just have my grandma, my dog, and I living in it. There were 3 other beings in the house. One was an old man who has died in my house about 40 years earlier. Me and my grandma would hear him walking around sometimes in steel-toed boots. And one time he actually started playing country music from the 50s on a laptop that was closed and powered off. He only ever showed himself a couple times, but never around me or my grandma, only to an aunt who had been staying in the basement. She one day asked if we had ever seen anything in the house, then told us she'd seen an old man peek out from our laundry room. Apparently he didn't look like he was evil, just kind of looking around to see who was there. There was a spirit that never really showed itself or said anything, but would move things to weird places, throw things across rooms, lock doors, and would also slam doors. One day, my dog was outside, but I heard something downstairs. Completely forgetting my dog was outside, I called down the stairs as I was worried he was getting into something as per usual. As I called down the stairs into the pitch-black basement, I heard a crystal clear growl and kind of just ushered the dog to come upstairs by calling his name. He never came. I was just going to go downstairs when I heard my dog howling in the front yard. No one was home. No TV was on. Nothing. Safe to say, I waited outside with my dog for my grandma to get home from work that day. Another one was a little girl. No one could ever see her but me. She only ever showed herself a couple times, though. Once when I was really young, she appeared behind my door, which was wide open. She was kneeling down crying really hard. Of course, I freaked out when my grandma came rushing in, and she was no longer there. Another time she showed herself when I was in sleep paralysis. This time, I could only slowly move my eyes, which led me to seeing her knelt down in the corner of my room crying. She once sent a picture from my phone of her white... I need to restart that. She once sent a picture from my phone of her white forehead and black hair. At the time, I had blonde hair and had not seen any picture of my forehead. And no one was in the room or in the house or had access to my social media. Sometimes me and my grandmother would hear her crying around the house, or she would throw some things sometimes. I had a feeling she was traumatized and died at a young age due to the way she had literally brought sadness into a room. I'm tearing up just thinking about it. I had also endured my fair amount of trauma in the home, so sometimes I feel connected to her, but almost too connected for my personal comfort. I began feeling the sadness she brought with her, and I think I may have gotten attached from it. And I need to focus on that word a little bit. I am of Aboriginal descent. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Where is it? Aboriginal descent. And one of my grandmother decided she wanted to smuggle my room because activity had gotten super bad in there, and it was at least 7 degrees colder than the rest of the home. She immediately felt a coldness in the corner and asked if there was a little girl who had been crying. And she was right. As she was smudging, I started to cry very abruptly and hard. I was nearly sobbing. My grandma had to stop smudging and told me that the girl most likely had an attachment to me, and I shouldn't have cried because in our culture and beliefs, that means you are inviting them to stay with you.
My grandma died a couple of years later, and I moved out of the home, but I still sometimes feel like she is with me. Interesting.
Wow. That's just so crazy to say that you have 3 beings in your house.
But we only heard 2.
Yeah. I want to know about the other one.
I want to know what happened with the third that she didn't mention.
Right. And, like, it's just to know exactly if it's a she or a he or...
Mm-hmm.
That's just... I don't know. That's really crazy to me. I've, like, never had an experience like that. And I would... If I did, I would totally move out instantly.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised that it wasn't, like... I'm just so surprised that she seemed pretty at peace with the presences in their home. Just, like, something growling up the stairs at me, and it wasn't my dog. I pooped my pants.
Yeah, no, for sure. Boxes would be packed instantly. Yeah, it's just, I cannot fathom just, it seems like she was pretty chill with it, and like, it's just something that's been her whole life, you know, that she was just used to it or something.
I think the little girl is so interesting. It makes, it kind of makes you want to look into the history of the home and, like, who lived there prior and, like, see the family. Like, I don't know how to do that, or if you can, but I want to know what happened to that little girl that made her so, like, distraught, like, just a spirit, like, wailing and crying. I feel like you hear about that, and it was a traumatic thing when you hear about those things, like, oh, they were murdered by, like, their mom, their dad, or, like, something very, very traumatic happened, and I want to know what happened in that home.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
The sleep paralysis part is interesting, though.
Right, yeah.
Because, like, I mean, I've had sleep paralysis, and I can't see things in my sleep paralysis. I'm just stuck. I can't move, but I can feel things, and I can sense things around me. And, like, if you were moving in the room, I would know it. But the fact that she just sees her crying, I want to know what happens in that sleep paralysis that causes her to see that. I need to do a sleep paralysis episode.
Right, that'd be so much fun.
Yeah, and just talk about the scary things that happen in there. But that poor girl.
Yeah, that's just crazy to me, I guess.
I feel bad for OP too, that she felt so connected with a crying spirit. That makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, kind of upsetting a little bit. Would love to know more about this story. That's really interesting, and why she didn't mention the third ghost and only mentioned 2.
Yeah, might have to message OP and see what they have to say about
For
number
sure.
3.
Yeah.
It was interesting what smudging was. I didn't know what smudging was, but in the comments it says when you burn sage, sweetgrass, tobacco, or cedar in a home.
Oh, okay.
Which I didn't realize that's another name for it. I didn't realize that.
Right.
Which is good to know. Yeah, I need to message OP.
For sure. That'd be really interesting.
Well, should we move on to the next one?
Of course. Let's get to it.
All right, well, this is in the same thread of what's the most paranormal story you know. This is just another story from someone else.
Okay.
Okay. So, when I was 13, I experienced the ghost of my grandmother. She died in her sleep while taking a nap on the living room couch. Afterwards, according to my father and grandfather, every now and then they could hear her make the trip from the bedroom to the kitchen and open the refrigerator door. A trip she made many times while she was alive. At first, I thought my father and grandfather were making this up, having fun at my expense. A couple years after she passed away, my father and I went to spend the weekend with my grandfather. My father and I slept on the living room couch. It opened into a double bed, the same couch my grandmother died on. My grandfather left the house to go to a next-door neighbor's house to play poker. My father and I went to bed in the living room. My father went right to sleep. I laid awake, reading a magazine. After a while, I heard the noise of the back bedroom door being pulled open. I heard the sound of shuffling feet. I heard the creak in the floor directly in front of the bathroom doorway. I heard more shuffling feet. Then I heard the fridge door being pulled open, and I heard the sound of glass bottles in the fridge door clinking against each other. Feeling thirsty, I decided to get out of bed and go join my grandfather in the kitchen for a cold drink. I go into the kitchen, only to find myself all alone. I was puzzled. I could have sworn I heard my grandfather walk from the bedroom into the kitchen and open the fridge. Then I remembered that my grandfather wasn't home. He was over the neighbor's house and hadn't come back yet. Then I remembered my grandfather's and father's ghost stories. Then I got scared. I raced from the kitchen into the living room and leaped over my sleeping father into the side of the bed. And then I went to sleep. I don't know how long I slept before I woke up with a start of feeling of paralyzing fear in my body. I was frozen. I was lying on my right side. It took a while for me to work up the courage to turn my head to the left. My head was covered by my blanket. There was a shadow being cast onto my blanket. The shadow was the outline of a head and shoulders, and of a woman with a beehive hairdo. My grandmother used to always have a beehive hairdo, even years after it went out of style, up until she died. I heard heavy breathing coming from the shadow. I had to work up the courage to move one of my hands to remove the blanket off my face. When I did, in an instant, the paralyzing fear I felt was gone. The shadow was gone. The sound of heavy breathing was gone. My father was still asleep. I pulled the blanket back over my head and went back to sleep, only to wake up again on my right side. The paralyzing fear was back. Forcing myself to turn my head, the shadow was back. The heavy breathing was back. Again, I had to summon up all my courage to move my hand to take the blanket off my face, only to find nothing there and the paralyzing fear gone. I went through the same routine the entire night. I lost count amount how many times it happened through the night. Maybe a dozen, maybe more, but it happened a lot. The next morning, I told my father what happened to me through the entire night while he was slept. The sound of the bedroom door opening, the shuffling feet, the fridge door opening, nobody in the kitchen. Being awakened with paralyzing fear, the shadow, the heavy breathing, the repeat performances throughout the night. I kind of expected him to tell me that I was just seeing and hearing things, but instead, he smiled and exclaimed, "That was Grandma."
Okay, I guess, like, my first thought is, like, this is kind of more of a sweet thing. It's just Grandma wandering around trying to grab something from the fridge. Her not knowing at first that it was Grandma, it definitely would terrify me, for sure. But, I think... does it say if she, felt at ease or anything after finding out? Okay.
No.
Because I would be a little more at ease knowing that it was a relative of mine. I guess it doesn't make it better that someone who you knew died is walking around doing their daily routine. I get that's pretty scary, but...
You know what I think is really funny, though? The fact that she has an attachment to the fridge.
I was thinking, oh, that's me. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's what I do every day, is walk from my bed to the fridge, back to my bed.
Yeah, we're just gonna get up, we're gonna go hang out with the fridge.
Yes.
The grandma sounds amazing, that she just, I'm gonna go and eat from the
sounds
fridge.
Like a pretty chill grandma, to be honest. She's just looking after them, she just wants to know if they have, if they're keeping their, like what grandmas do, to make sure that they're keeping themselves full,
Yeah, no, that was funny. But the thing that kind of puzzles me is, why was she so struck with fear every single time that she came? Because I'm thinking, I think any paranormal experience can be really unsettling, but if you know it's your grandma, and this has happened now a dozen times throughout the night, I feel like at some point you would just feel at peace or just wonder what she's wanting. Yeah. So I don't know. That's just very interesting why she was just hit with that fear of dread and terror. Yeah. When I feel like if that was your family member, you'd be kind of at peace. Creeped out for sure, but at peace.
Right. And I feel like just... maybe Grandma wants their attention or something. She's probably trying to tell them something. Maybe eat your vegetables. I don't know.
Eat your vegetables. But how was she hanging her head in the blankets the entire night? How do you breathe? How do you breathe?
Yeah.
I can't breathe.
Right, yeah. I mean, after
post-COVID, I definitely can breathe with my head underneath the blankets. But I'm pretty sure this was before then, and I definitely tried to do that when I was a kid and I got scared. I would hide and cover my head, and I'd be like, this is terrible. But
yeah,
I couldn't do that for sure.
Oh, this is a new post. I didn't read that.
Okay.
This was 17 days ago.
So she should be used to it, is what I'm hearing.
Well, yeah, but that's... And they said this was when they were 13, so this could be however many years later. Like, who knows? Maybe it was 10, 20, or 5. Okay. But that's just so interesting, her experiences. I don't know. I'd like to chat with her more, especially on how she can breathe under her blankets and not suffocate. That's super interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I like wrapping my blanket around my head, but I have to keep, like, my mouth open, so, like, I wrap it around my eyes because some light comes in. I don't have blackout curtains. So, like, I just leave my mouth open, and that's almost a little more weird, just having your mouth open.
Yeah, I used to do that. I'll be honest. I used to do that also, I guess. Yeah, we're one and the same. I
don't know. Something about being related. All right. Should we see what we have next?
Yes, of course.
So this one, I haven't read most of this story because I think the first couple of paragraphs really creeped me out. I'm like, I think I need a live reaction to this. So this is in subreddit Paranormal Encounters, and it's titled, I Have a Story.
Okay, all right.
So let's see what they have to say. So they preface with, this is the reason why they hate the dark, and only a few people know about this happening, and a lot of people don't believe that it happens, but they're pretty insistent that this is very, very real, which I post under the assumption that these are all real.
Okay.
So let's see what they got. When I was around 12 at the time, 4 years ago, I would play tag at night with friends next door. I call them L, I's, and M for privacy purposes. One night, I was playing as usual when I was hiding under the tight space under the deck. I smelled a rotten stench and saw a black mass of something turn and face me. I acted like any normal 12-year-old and got out of there as fast as I could, only to be tagged. I was annoyed, but saw someone running up into the treehouse, so I ran over and hid, waiting for them to come out. About 5 minutes later, I got impatient and decided to sneak up into the treehouse. Well, no one was up there. And as I put my foot up onto the step to the second floor, I guess you could call it, a slimy, damp hand tightly wrapped around my ankle. I got free, but fell over the railing and hit my head pretty hard. I opened my eyes only to see a tall, like, I'm talking 8 feet tall here, and I'm 6'2", around 5'10" at the time. Anyways, I see this thing, but I can't move. I try to scream, but nothing happens. I know what you guys are possibly thinking, and no, not sleep paralysis. I've had that before, and this was different. It shot down and wrapped its hand around my throat. It said, "Run," in my ear, and a sharp tone, kind of like Vecina mixed with Will Ramos? I don't know what that is. As soon as it says that, I can move again, but it's gone, but my neck is still in pain. I get up and book it, but stop by L. He spins around me and asks where I have been and that they've been looking for me for 20 minutes. I tell him what happened, and he calls bullshit, saying they looked behind the treehouse multiple times. I blink, and there it is. Right behind him, in the split second I blinked, he calms me down and talks me through it, saying it was just M being a dickhead. About an hour passes of nothing happening, and I go inside, only to see this thing in our kook pen. Kook? I don't know what he meant to say there. Pen just staring at me. I tell my parents and sister, eyes, and she says she put her hand in the spare and did it all. The spar was bone dry at the time of this. I don't know what that is either. They must be from somewhere else. If anyone has any insight about this, let me know. I have looked online through the years, but the only thing that somewhat resembles what I saw was the rake or version of Slenderman I drew out a couple years ago with facial features. My friend at work had a paranormal experience like the one I had. I hope that this is right place to post this.
Yeah, that's really creepy. I really liked the comparison to Slenderman. It sounded a lot like him. Seeing just this weird figure wherever she is, this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really creepy.
Yeah, I have questions. I have questions with this story because so they were under the deck and someone turns to face them and they get tagged. And he sees someone go into the house.
Yep.
And then he tries to climb up and he falls and hits his head. Is that right?
I think, yeah.
That sounded right.
That sounds about what it was saying, yep.
Yeah. And then unconscious, creepy creature. Similar to Slenderman.
Yep.
That's just... I want to know... I'm getting chills. I want to know why it said that he needed to run. Like, that's terrifying.
Right, yeah, that's... I don't know if they are schizophrenic or if that definitely comes to question, or they really were seeing something and it's just something really creepy. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like it's only happened the one time.
Okay.
But how'd they see that thing after they woke up? Because they had, like, a sleep paralysis type of deal. Right. They said it wasn't sleep paralysis, but something similar to when they were, like, waking up. But then, again, as they were going inside. And that's so interesting. Like, he was being stalked by something almost.
Yeah, that's super creepy. I haven't heard any stories of what this could possibly be. The closest is Slenderman. That stumps me. I have no idea what it could possibly be.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Maybe it's something that only attacked, I guess, for lack of a better word, them, the OP. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I want to know, where was he then? Because he doesn't say it anywhere. I should look in the comments. Oh, it was a thing from Stranger Things that he was talking about.
Oh, you mean like the Demogorgon?
The Vecna?
Oh, Vecna.
Yeah, Vecna. Yeah. I haven't watched the last season, so I'm a bit behind. But yeah, that's what he said it sounded like.
Oh, okay. So maybe they watched Stranger Things and got a little too deep into it or something, and maybe he met. Actually, I've heard this thing where if you manifest something, then it can become real in a way, whether it's in your head or whatnot. If maybe they were watching a lot of Stranger Things and just saw Vecna and then ended up manifesting Vecna in a sort of way.
For their sake of sanity, I kind of hope so. I hope so, because I think seeing those things can be really unsettling and cause a lot of disturbances. But they're 16. I wonder if they have watched it, because, well, they must have, because they mentioned it.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, I can see a 16-year-old watching. It's not a terrible show for a 16-year-old, but, yeah, definitely really interesting.
Yeah, that poor kid. That's hard. I just want to know where he went, because when they looked behind the tree for him, like, where was he? Where was he that entire time? Was he just still under the porch? Like, I'm so
Maybe
confused.
He went into the upside down.
He was in the upside down. That's what we're going with. No, but realistically, I'm sure there's stuff similar to that. Yeah. I feel like that's just the best possible explanation.
For sure. Maybe he plays too much D&D. I don't know. Not to make fun of the D&D guys, but
that's so interesting. I wonder if they've had any other experiences since. And this was a fairly new post too. It was only posted 12 days ago.
Right. Well, I hope it doesn't happen to them again.
For sure. No, that's...
But if it does, type it on Reddit.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll ever get an answer to, like, what happened. I'm just so intrigued on where they went. Where'd they go?
Yeah. No, for sure.
for 20 minutes, and I looked all around. I just
They pulled a Will Byers. That's what happened. That's my
it's what
theory.
happened. Oh my gosh, that poor kid.
Yeah.
Well, all right. That is all I have.
All right.
But thank you for coming on.
Of
You'll be on
course.
again for sure. But that's all we have. Thank
All
you
right.
guys.
Yeah, thank you guys.